Good afternoon to you all and a very, very happy Friday. How are you doing today? I hope you are well. Thank you so much for joining me on this, well, is it gloomy? It's trying to rain here. How have you been where you are? Huge thunderstorms and rain clouds around the country, certainly here in the UK, but not much here in East London actually, which has been surprising. Hugely hot weather. And a little bit more bearable today. So I wonder how you are doing. Let me know how you're doing wherever you are. A few people are joining. I know there's lots of people away and lots of people travelling, but we're going to get a few people joining. Thank you to you that have joined. Hi, nice to see you. How are we doing this week? How is your family? How's your business doing? How's your team? How are you coping with all this undulations in weather? How are you managing with all the, there's lockdown, no lockdown, different parts of the country, different countries. It's all quite confusing, isn't it? So I wonder how you are managing with all of that. Do you have any plans for the summer? I know some of you have been away, and some of you maybe got plans either to stay where you are at home or maybe go somewhere here in the UK or wherever you are. Maybe some of you are going to venture abroad. So my husband and I were away, as you know, we were away in Sicily last week. And we actually felt quite fortunate to have chosen Italy. We did toy with the idea of maybe going to France, and quite glad that we didn't do that now. And obviously with Spain, lots of people getting stuck up in that situation. So we were in Sicily last week, and I went live last Friday to those of you that watched that from Sicily. What an amazing place. If you've never been there, I would definitely recommend it. From our perspective, it was the perfect combination. We love to dive, we love to explore historical places, and we love to climb a volcano. So from our perspective, it was a really brilliant sort of combination of those things. The travelling was all very smooth actually. I mean, not much social distancing, everybody wearing masks, so that was a little bit uncomfortable to wear a mask for the whole flight, but it's just something that you get used to, isn't it? And then actually I found more people were probably wearing masks over there than even they are here in some places. Kind of quite relaxed, quite Italian about it. So you walk into the shop and the guy puts his mask on, and you know, everyone was kind of quite respectful, and we really enjoyed it and made us feel very safe anytime we were in a taxi or anything. Everybody was being very careful. So nice to get away and nice to get a bit of perspective on life and on business. So how are you doing? As I say, have you got any plans to go away? Thank you for joining. How are you managing to juggle work and home and family and business and holidays maybe also? Last week I was talking a little bit about that. So in last week's live I was talking about really how to get the best and the most out of your time off. It's really important, as you know, I often talk about how important it is to take time out, and not just to recharge those batteries and sort of refresh and clear your head, but also to get some important perspective on your business. And I'm often talking about that. So when we discuss with other people, or when we pose questions, or when we talk about our business, we get some good perspective. But also in our own minds, we need to get a bit of distance sometimes from what we're doing, and taking some time out is a really great way of doing that. It's not that you stop thinking about your business. I was still thinking about my business last week, and even doing a little bit of work, as I like to do every now and then, but it just gives you a different perspective. You're not in the day-to-day, and so you can really start looking at it, maybe look at it a bit more holistically, a bit more big picture. So I hope that you are planning some time off this summer if you haven't done so already. One of the things that I was talking about last week was the importance of having a system that you know really works to keep you organised in order for you to feel relaxed when you're taking that time out. If you don't have some kind of system or process, if you don't know that you've got things under control, then you won't be able to relax. And when you get back from your break or from taking your time off, then it can be a huge stress to catch up. You know, those people that say, oh my God, I need a holiday immediately after I've come back from holiday because it's been so stressful getting back on top of everything. And that's what I really want to dig into a little bit more today. in terms of how do we really stay focused and organised. You know me, I like to keep things simple, but I also like to get into the how do we do things. So let's get into that today. And let me ask you some questions before I do. Some things for you to think about. So how much do you rely on your memory? I know that I do quite a lot, and I've always had quite a good memory, but I've noticed that as I get older, my memory is not so reliable. And what I've also learned is that actually it's quite stressful relying on your memory. And I'll come on to that a little bit more in a second. But think about how much are you actually asking your brain to do? How much are you actually expecting yourself to remember? And I suppose related to that, if you are trying to give your head a bit of a break or your brain a bit of a break, maybe you're a list person. I love a good list. So do you have one list? Do you have multiple lists? How do you organise yourself? And really crucially, and one of the things that I find a lot of my clients talk to me about is worrying about forgetting things, feeling overwhelmed with all of the different things that you're carrying, and all of the different things that you want to do, that you've committed to yourself to do. And a lot of people that I work with, or that I speak to indeed, do you have that kind of nagging feeling in your head that maybe you're going to forget something? Maybe, you know, that feeling of, I know it's there, but I don't quite know what it is, that kind of nagging tap, tap, tap in your head. And that is really, really stressful. And a lot of people are struggling with that at the moment. I know it's difficult to keep on top of everything, particularly at this time of year. You know, are we going back to school in September? What's happening with the kids? What's happening with the exams? You know, how are we juggling? Are we taking time off? Are we traveling? What are we doing? Maybe we're caring for relatives, friends, etc. It's a busy time of year. And so it can be difficult to stay on top of everything. And today then I want to give you some practical ways that you can get organised and focused. And the reason that this is so important is we want your head clear so that you can really be focusing on what you want to be thinking about rather than all those nagging things that keep popping into your head. So you may or may not realise that you probably almost definitely have some sort of system already to keep yourself organised. You will have, or each and every one of you will have a way that you keep yourself organised, that you keep on top of things. You might not think of it as a system, and it may work well or not so well. But in my experience, a lot of people can do with some improvement in this area. And this is an area that I feel very passionately about and have quite a lot of expertise in. And I love to help people get organised because it's just revolutionary when it clears your head. It really can be life-changing and game-changing. And I know that a lot of you don't like systems and processes, and that is totally fine. But even if you don't like those words, we do all need processes, we do all need systems, and I promise that I'm going to keep it simple as I always do. So why is this so important? The thing is that unless your brain, don't forget, your brain is there, our brains are there to keep you safe, right? So that is its primary goal. It is all the time looking out for danger and for anything that might stress us. And so our brain really needs to trust that we've got a way of remembering all of these things, otherwise it will try and do it for us. Yeah, so all of those things that we say to ourselves, I ought to, I want to, I might do, the brain is logging those, and it will keep hold of all of those. And if you don't have a system or a way that your brain trusts, really trusts, then it will try and keep hold of everything, and that is hugely stressful. So I'm going to share my formula with you for keeping organised. And the reason that I call it a formula rather than a system is that everybody is different. Yeah. So the way that I choose to organise myself is not going to work for you because everybody is wired differently. And I'm very conscious of that. The clients that I work with, often very creative, a million ideas, wanting to move fast, very ambitious, wanting to build, very impatient. And everybody is different, and a lot of people don't like systems and processes, and I get that. So I'm not going to talk about a system today, I'm going to talk about a formula. And the reason that it is a formula is that it's customizable so that you can adapt it to suit you and your needs. And that is the magic thing about this, is it will work for you however you're wired, however you like to do things. This formula, these steps if you like, you will have your different ways of doing them, and I will share with you mine, but this formula is really important to help you clear your head and help you get things out of your head. So I call it the focus formula, and it's got 5 steps: F, O, C, U and S. And what you'll probably find as I run through this is that you're probably doing some or all of these 5 steps in your own way. But in order to keep your head clear, which is what we're talking about today, you need to do each of these 5 steps of my formula. You need to be doing all of these consistently so that your brain trusts that you've got this. You're basically saying to your brain, don't worry, I've got this. And so then your head is clear to focus on what you really want to be thinking about. Okay, so let's get into those 5 steps. So first of all, we've got F is for fetch. And what I mean by that, I mean fetching and capturing every single thing that pops into your head that you commit to yourself that you may or may not do at some point, at any point in time. Now that is huge. Anytime you say to yourself, oh, I could do that. Oh, maybe I'll do that. Oh, I should do that. Oh, I want to do that. Maybe in 20 years' time I'll do that. All of those things are opening loops in your brain. Your brain is catching all of those. So even if you haven't really decided, I'll give you an example. Somebody mentioned a book to me on a call yesterday. He said, oh, you might want to read this book. It's a really good book. This happens to me quite often. I'm sure it does to you. People will mention a book or an article or something that you might want to read. Now, I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to read that yet, but it's logged in my brain. My brain's got that. And now my brain's going, are you going to, Lisa? Are you going to read that? Are you going to check it out? So that has opened a loop in my brain. And so it's really, really, really important in step 1, which is our fetch step, that we have a system, a way, a method. I don't care what it is. It can be a pen and paper. It can be an online system. We can talk about that more in due course, but you've got to have a way of capturing all of those things, and it's got to be easy and it's got to be portable. So a lot of people have got it on their phone. I've got it on their phone, maybe by your bed. You have a notebook. It's got to be with you all the time. You've got to have a way of capturing things. Things pop into your head in the shower. Things pop into your head when you're running. Things pop into your head when you're walking. Things pop into your head when you're falling asleep, when you're waking up. So all of these things we need to have a way of capturing them, and that is so important because, as I say, each and every one of those opens a loop in your brain. Now let me tell you something really interesting about your brain. The bit of your brain that deals with memory and deals with capturing these open loops, it doesn't have any concept of time. And so if you say to yourself, oh, I must change that light bulb on the balcony that I'm not really using and I won't use until the winter because it's summertime and so who cares? So I need to do that at some point in the next few months. That is exactly the same to your brain as, oh my God, I've forgotten, I must go to the shops and I must pick up eggs for tonight. It's exactly the same to your brain. It's opening a loop in your brain, and it can't tell the difference between I need to get eggs today and I need to change that light bulb at some point in 6 months. There's no difference in your brain. It's opening a loop. Now I want to tell you something else about the brain, and that is I'm going to shatter a myth, and that is that multitasking does not exist. I know us women like to particularly tell men that we are fabulous at multitasking. And whilst it is true, scientifically, academically proven, that many women are good at moving from one thing to another maybe more quickly, or they're more adaptable in that sense, whereas men generally speaking, I'm generalizing, prefer to be focused on one thing at a time. It is actually impossible to do more than one thing at a time. Your brain can only hold one thought at a time. And so the moment that you open up more than one loop in your brain, the moment that you say, not only do I need eggs today, but I also need to change that balcony light at some point in the next few months, now your brain is stressed, and I'll tell you why. Your brain is stressed because it can't think about those two things at the same time, and it's going, when are you going to do them, when are you going to do them, I need to do them, I need to do them. And so that you are introducing stress into the system. And so it's really super important that you have a way of capturing all of those thoughts. They're all commitments. Even if it's like a soft commitment, I might do that, it's still, your brain is very binary in this area of the brain. And so they're all the same to the brain. And so we need to capture them, because otherwise now your brain is getting stressed. As soon as you've written it down and your brain trusts that you've written it down, that you've captured it, your brain can relax a little bit. So that's step one. Now, step two is one that most people I find actually don't do. And this is what introduces quite an element of stress into this process. And this is O for options. And what I mean by that is, don't just capture the thing in a nebulous way. Take a couple of minutes to go, what do I want to do with this? Like, what's the action? What are my different options? And what is the next action that I'm going to take? Yeah. So I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, and he said, I asked him to read a few things from his list, and he had premium bonds written on his list. That is a great example, premium bonds. Now, I asked him, have you decided, like, what do you want to do about premium bonds? And he went, oh no, I need to figure it out. I haven't quite, no. And what happens then is, every time your brain sees that premium bonds, whether it's in your head or even if you've written it down, it goes round that loop again. And if you're in action mode, and we'll come on to that in a second, if you're in the mode you want to do something and you see premium bonds written, your brain will go, I don't know. So if you take only one thing away from today, this is a great thing that you can action immediately. That's the thing with all of these systems and these processes. I don't want to give you something where you have to do it all. Yeah, you don't have to be perfect at all of this. You don't have to implement it all at once. It's about getting these steps in place. And even if you make one change from today, this is the one that I would say. Do not add anything to your list without making it actionable. What is the first action? Take a couple of minutes, it won't take you more than that, a couple of minutes to think about your options and decide what is the next action. What is the first action? What is the next action you're going to take? So in the premium bond example, when I talked it through with Tim, he went, well, probably first I need to do a bit of research about what I need to do. Fantastic. So then research premium bond options. Now this is an action, and so when your brain sees that, it's not going into a fuzz. Does that make sense? So really important to decide what your next action is. And here there's a great little trick that you might have heard, and that's the DDD. Do it either now, immediately, if it's something really quick like less than 2 minutes, or it's an action for you. So do, ditch, or delegate. So do it, as I say, either now or in the future. Ditch, do you know what, actually, I don't want that on my list. I'm not going to do it. But make sure you mean it, because if you don't mean it, your brain will know. So if you're going to ditch it, like properly ditch it, I'm not going to do that, that's gone. Or delegate, yeah? So do, ditch, or delegate, get somebody else to do it. So your action, your options, if you like, are do, ditch, and delegate. And what are my different options that I've got? And then you need to decide what you are going to do. You don't have to do it now, but don't put anything on your list without deciding what that action is. So that's step 2. Now we come to the C, and C is for categorize. But this is super important. So this is about the buckets that you put things in. Now, one of the common mistakes that I see people make is they put their lists, or they put their items, their to-do lists, in different days. So they put things in their calendar and then they have to keep moving them around, yeah? They categorize them by date or by time. Now, in my experience, that really doesn't work, because what happens if tomorrow is your admin day and you wake up tomorrow and you don't feel like doing admin, right? We're business owners. We have control over our lives, or at least we want to, and over our time. So allow some flexibility in your system to allow you to do what you feel like doing within reason, okay? So your system must be flexible, otherwise it feels constraining, and particularly if you're someone who doesn't like systems and processes, if you put a system in that is really constraining, you will give it up really quickly. I've seen it happen so many times. So categorize your different elements that you've fetched, that you've captured, and organize it by theme. So for example, all of the calls together, maybe all of the things that you need to do when you go out to a certain place. So let's say, for example, you live in a village and you're going to the town. What are all the errands or the jobs that you want to do when you're out there? Yeah. So categorize them in themes. It's much better, either by the type of activity or by themes. I think about projects. So for example, one of the things that I really want to do, and I am going to do, is start a podcast. So I've got a project called Podcast, and every time I have an idea for something that I could talk about, someone that I could interview, a really interesting angle or a system or some hacks that I can share with you in a podcast, I make a note, I add it into that podcast. So bucketing things, categorizing things in different projects is a really good way to think about it. But as I say, it must be flexible, because if you wake up tomorrow and you're feeling super creative and you have a bit of time, you want to go to that creative bucket and say, what do I feel like doing? Now, another point in time, you might just feel like ticking things off, right? I want the dopamine hit of just ticking things off, getting things done. I don't want to think about it. So I don't want to look at premium bonds, but research premium bonds options. Okay, fine. Now I need to go to Google and I need to find some stuff. Yeah. Now my brain can cope with that. So if I'm in just, I feel like ticking things off mode, I can go to that section. So you might have a section of research, for example. Okay, I feel like researching now. Or you might feel like making some calls and getting in contact with people. You might feel like you want a bit of energy from people. So then have a calls bucket or category, if you like. See how this works? So really, really important to categorize this. And one of the things that I spend time with my clients doing when I work through this with them is helping them come up with suitable categories, because everybody's different, depends on your business, depends on your life, depends on your work. So category is really, really important to get those right, and be flexible, because they will change over time. And this is why this is a formula rather than a system. I want you to feel like you can take these 5 steps and adapt them to you and how you're wired and how you like to live your life and how you like to run your business. Okay, so step 4, U, is for understand. This is super important. I feel like I'm saying this at every step. You've got to get all these 5 steps in place. Okay, so what do I mean by understand? One of the common complaints about any kind of organisational system is that it gets stale very quickly. It gets full of junk, of kind of clutter, and then you look at it and you feel overwhelmed, and then instead of trying to fix it, you just kind of go, do you know what? I really can't be bothered with this. It must be the system, it must be the process, I'm just gonna give it up or start something new, yeah? Particularly if you're somebody that likes new, shiny things, then the appeal of a new system or a new process is always going to feel more interesting to you than kind of fixing your current one, which is why you must make sure that it doesn't get broken, so you don't need to fix it. And this understand phase is really, really important. Okay, so for me, this really breaks down into two different things, if you like. This is about reviewing, okay? So you need to have a daily review, okay? So Really importantly, your calendar is a really important tool here. So clearly your calendar, hopefully you are all using your calendar to manage your time. If you're not, then please start doing so. Very, very helpful tool. So you'll have all the things in your calendar that you have to do or that you've committed to doing on that day. So you'll have meetings in there. You might have your non-negotiables in there. So I have a health slot in my calendar every day, and every day I say to myself, what am I going to do health wise? Have I got a personal training session? How am I going to go running? Am I going to do some other form of physical activity? That is one of my non-negotiables. So the things that you definitely are going to do or definitely have to do, and the things that are your non-negotiables. But please don't clutter up your calendar with loads of things that you maybe possibly will do. This is not the place for the calendar. But on a daily basis, you are going to look at your schedule. I like to do it the night before. You might prefer to do it in the morning. Look at your calendar and go, right, how does my day look? How does my day look? Okay, I've got 3 meetings today, I've got 3 calls today, I've got to do this, I've got to go into and post this or go to the post office, I've got to do something here, and these are the things that I need to do, and maybe I need to pick the children up from school or whatever it might be. So you've got the things in your diary that you need to do. And then you're looking at the other times and you're saying, right, what are the most important things? And then you're looking at your various categories, you're looking at your various lists, and you're saying, what are the things that I need to do? And a lot of people find picking a top 3. What are the top 3 things I'm going to achieve today or tomorrow if you're doing it in the evening? So this is your daily review, if you like. This is how you're deciding that you're going to spend your time. But it's important that it's flexible, because as I say, I might decide I'm going to do a load of admin tomorrow morning, and then I might wake up and feel really creative and go, do you know what, I feel like writing something. And it's super important that you keep that flexibility. You do not want this to feel like a straitjacket. Yeah, that is not going to work, I promise you. So very important to have that daily review. And then, so probably most of you, I would imagine, are doing some form of, what am I going to do today? Yeah, that's, I'm sure you're doing that. But super, super important is the weekly review. Now, if you are going to make this work, I am going to say to you, you are going to need to commit to a weekly review. Now, this is not some hugely long and convoluted thing, but it is probably going to take you a bit of time each week, depending on all the stuff that you've got in your system. And the reason that this is so important is you need to clear out this clutter. You need to tick off things that maybe you haven't had a chance to tick off. You need to maybe reprioritize things. You need to look at your projects and go, do you know what? Okay, I've got this podcast project. Am I going to pull this into this week, or is that something that is just still going to sit there? Yeah, because it's easy in a sense to manage our day-to-day things. The tricky thing is that we also need to manage things that are a little bit further out. And it's really important that once a week we look through all of our different buckets, not necessarily every single item, but we just refresh it. We make it feel current. We ask ourselves, do I still want this in my system? Maybe we have an archive project where we put everything that we're filing. Maybe we have a filing system. It's important to keep this fresh and current. And that is why I've called this Understand, because you need to make sure you understand what is there, but this is actually a super important step to reassuring your brain that you've got this. Part of this whole process is this reassurance of your brain, because if your brain starts to doubt that you are not capturing things, that you are not reviewing things, that maybe you're getting a bit overwhelmed and it's getting a bit cluttered and maybe it's getting a bit disorganized, at a certain point in time your brain will just go, I'm sorry, I don't trust you anymore. I'm sorry, I'm going to take all of this back and I'm going to have all of these open loops in my brain. And that is when we feel overwhelmed. That is why we feel overwhelmed. And that is one of the main causes for that feeling of my head is too full, which is why I'm calling this Alive, getting things out of your head. We want our heads to be as clear as possible so that then the creativity can come. Yeah, this is why this is so important. And as I mentioned last week, think about it. Before you go on holiday or before you take some time off, you feel amazing, right? Now, most people think they feel amazing because they're going on holiday. Now, that probably is the case as well. But one of the reasons why you actually feel amazing is because you get yourself super organised before you go on holiday. You go through your whole to-do list and you go, I'm going to do this before holiday. I'm going to do this after holiday. And you agree with your brain. You tell your brain, all of these 10 things, it's okay with me. I am shifting them out. That I'm going to do them when I come back. You're placing them, you're categorizing them, you're organizing them, and you're making your brain feel like, yes, I've got this, I'm in control. And that is why you feel amazing, because you've cleared all the decks. All those things you've said to yourself, I need to do before holiday, you get them all cleared, or you put them after your holiday, and that makes us feel amazing. So next time you're about to go on holiday, just think about that. Think about that feeling of, I've got everything. Everything's packed. I've done everything. Maybe I didn't get everything done that I wanted to, but it's okay. It is what it is. I've got to leave now. I'm gone. I'm done. And that feeling is like, whew, okay, I'm ready for my holiday. So this is why this understand step is so important. Once a week, we've kind of got to clear the decks a little bit. Once a week, we've just kind of got to go, do you know what? I'm organised. These are my projects. These are my buckets. These are my categories. I know what I'm doing. I would also highly recommend that you look ahead in your calendar for the week ahead. I like to do this on a Sunday afternoon. Some of you might prefer to do that on a Monday morning or maybe a Friday afternoon. Totally up to you when you do it. But once a week, an hour, maybe, hour and a half, depending on how much stuff you've got. Just look at it all and go, do you know what? I've got this all under control. I know what I'm doing. Look at your calendar for next week. This is what the week ahead looks like. And you can start the week feeling in control and organised and not overwhelmed. So we have been through F, O, C and U. So now, of course, we've got the S, and I've called this one Succeed. This is actually about doing stuff. This is actually about taking action. But the most important thing and the value of this formula is it allows you to do the right things at the right time. Rather than all this firefighting and doing all of this urgent but not important, you know, all that stuff that comes that you just think, oh, I'll just get it done because it's come at me and I need to do it and I need to do it. This system, this formula allows you to have a clear head so that you can take the right action at the right time, and your head can be clear to make good decisions. And so you can look at your lists and you can go, right, I am going to do this because everything else is in control. This is what I'm going to do. Here are my top 3 things. These are my priorities. So it helps us prioritize. It helps us feel in control because our head is clear and we don't have that annoying all the time. So they are the 5 steps of my focus formula. I hope you can see that this is a flexible formula. It's not a rigid system. I'm not saying you need to use this piece of technology. I'm not saying you need to use any technology at all. If you want to use a pen and note paper, fantastic. Whatever works for you. But these 5 steps, please work through them. As I say, I'm sure you're doing bits of these 5 steps, but if you put these 5 together, I promise you it will change your life. You must fetch everything, even if it's insignificant, like changing a light bulb. The moment you have that thought, I must change that light bulb, a loop has opened in your brain. Write it down, fetch it, capture it. You must not, please don't add anything to your system, to your organisational space without considering your options. Do not put premium bonds on your list. Take a couple of minutes to say, what are my options? Am I going to do it? Am I going to ditch it? Am I going to delegate it? And what is the next action that I'm going to take? And record that. Don't record premium bonds. Record research premium bonds options. Or talk to John about premium bonds. Phone the hairdressers to book an appointment, yeah? Don't just write haircut, write phone the hairdresser. I know it sounds ridiculous. When you see haircut, maybe you know what that means. Help your brain out. Our brains are simple and they're binary. And when you are tired and you just want to get stuff done, even something like haircut, it will cause your brain stress. If you write phone hairdresser, make an appointment, I know it sounds like the same thing, but it really isn't. You just have to trust me on that. So you must fetch everything and you must consider all of your options and decide on that next action. You must categorize things into appropriate buckets so that you can keep yourself organized, and crucially so that your system remains flexible, so that if you had planned to do admin and you wake up feeling creative, you can pick something, you can go to your creative bucket and you can pick something, you can move around your priorities depending on how you feel and the different demands of your customers, of your team, of your business, of your life, of your family. You must understand what you are doing and what you have on your plate on a daily and a weekly basis. If you are not doing that weekly process, put it in place. It will make a huge difference, I promise. And all of these steps lead you then to the succeed step, where you take actions and you do the right things at the right time. It sounds simple, but it's simple and powerful, like hopefully most of the things that I share with you. Really, really important, and I hope that you will find it helps you keep your head clear over this busy summer period, but particularly relevant now as we go into September, and that's always, whether you have children or not, there's always that kind of back to school, back to work kind of mentality, isn't there, in September? And that is the reason why in our next community event, which is going to be Wednesday the 26th of August, we're actually going to walk through this system and we're going to discuss it in more detail, and you'll have an opportunity actually to work on maybe one of the 5 areas or 5 steps that maybe you're struggling with a little bit. Maybe we can talk about categories. So have a think about those 5 steps and come on Wednesday the 26th of August and pose your issues, your questions. Let's have a chance to discuss it with each other. I always find finding out how each and every person organises themselves can be really, really helpful. So I hope that you can join me for that. I will put an event up in the group this afternoon. I'm going to close off today's live then with 2 quotes about getting your head clear. The first is from Andy Andrew, who is an American author. And what he has to say on this subject is, keep your head and heart clear. Perspective can just as easily be lost as it can be found. Very true words. And the second one is from Orison Swett Marden, who was another American author, and he was the founder of Success Magazine. And what he has to say on this subject is, a good system shortens the road to the goal. And I couldn't agree more. And if you don't like the word system, you can supplement with process, formula, method, creative, construct, whatever words you feel comfortable with. So do let me know your thoughts and questions on this, or on any other topic relating to how to grow a business that works for you. Let me know what area or areas of business you'd like me to cover in future lives or future events. I do hope that you all have a lovely weekend. Thank you so much for joining me today. Whatever you're doing and whoever you're doing it with, I hope that you have a really happy and peaceful time. And as always, if you want to talk, do reach out to me. You know where I am. Take care, stay safe, and do keep in touch. Bye for now.